By the way, at this moment, when you're on the telephone or on radio or on TV, you don't have a physical body. You're just an image on the air. When you don't have a physical body, you're a discarnate being. You have a very different relation to the world around you. And this, I think, has been one of the big effects of the electric age. It has deprived people really of their private identity.
When you say the medium is the message, does that leave any room at all for criticism of individual, say, television programs?
Or content. You see, it doesn't much matter what you say on the telephone. The telephone as a service is a huge environment, and that is the medium. And the environment affects everybody. What you say on the telephone affects very few. And the same with radio or any other medium. What you print is nothing compared to the effect of the printed word. The printed word sets up a paradigm, a structure of awareness which affects everybody in very, very drastic ways, and it doesn't very much matter what you print as long as you go on with that form of activity.
I think McLuhan was an intellect in his own particular way, with this one proviso. He was not an intellect who sought to represent himself in traditional intellectual terms. Maybe that's the distinction I'll make. Maybe that's what made him special.
McLuhan is a kind of, people have called him a performance artist. That, he put on this personality of being a media guru, or the professor, the specialist, at a time, this really took off in the 60s, of course, where it was like, well, we're going to interview Professor McLuhan, and he's going to tell us what is the meaning of television, how does television change us, etc. And I think McLuhan just was very comfortable in occupying the role, but he was acting, and he was consciously acting. And if you listen to some of the interviews, they're hilarious because some of the things that he says are incredibly complex, ambiguous, mysterious.
Everything that we prize in our Western world in matters of individualism, separatism, and of unique point of view, private judgment, all those factors are highly favored by the printed word and not really favored by other forms.
Yes. If the medium is the message, and it doesn't matter what we say on TV, why are we all here tonight? And why am I asking this question?
I didn't say it didn't matter what you asked on TV. I said that the effect of TV, the message of TV, is quite independent of the program. That is, there is a huge technology involved in TV which surrounds you physically. And the effect of that huge service environment on you personally is vast. The effect of the program is incidental.
I say without any hesitation, and not in a braggy or Canadianistic way, he's simply one of the most important intellects in at least the last 500 years. I mean, he was paired with Newton, Einstein, and Freud.
One of the big flips that's taking place in our time is the changeover from the eye to the ear. Most of us, having grown up in a visual world, are now suddenly confronted with the problems of living in an acoustic world, which is, in effect, a world of simultaneous information.
All of our electronic devices work on sound waves. So when my cell phone rings, it's ringing because there are sound waves permeating this very room in which you and I are speaking. And so we're in that sense in acoustic space, but we're also in acoustic space because acoustic space McLuhan defined as very immersive and involving, as opposed to the space produced by the alphabet, which was abstract, okay? Those little black marks on the white page, abstractly representing a sound, although not really representing that sound. There's no connection between the letter A and the sound A. That's simply a convention. And if we were using another language, that would become immediately obvious to us, you know.
He put out hundreds of ideas. He would say, you know, he would give talks and people would be critiquing him and he would go, oh, okay, you don't like those ideas? I have more. Because it was not about getting to the ultimate truth. It was about a process of trying to understand. I always see McLuhan as a teacher, or he would say as a student. But I think he was into media pedagogy.
With electronic media, however, because they're so involving, I mean, both us and electronic media operate on electricity. We're an extremely economical machine because it doesn't really take too much power to make us work. But that's what's making me and you work right at this very moment, electricity. So the next thing McLuhan realizes is that we have something deeply and profoundly in common with these electronic media. To a certain extent, and you may have heard me say this in my talk this morning, McLuhan believed that these media had a sort of biological dimension to them. They were physiological. They weren't mechanical. Mechanical culture ended with the end of print culture. That was mechanical culture. But electronic culture is organic culture. It's biological. It's a body, and as a result, we have become corporate. Corporate in the sense of the Latin word corpore, meaning body, as in a corpse. And we're all experiencing this body together, and the best example I can give you of that is Facebook. Okay? So I have students who tell me that they have 700 friends on Facebook, and I try not to laugh because they don't have 700 friends on Facebook. What they do have is a sort of extension of their selves into this large corporate body. And as McLuhan once put it, quote, "We now wear all mankind as our skin," unquote. Now, of course, that was said half a century before Facebook, but that is precisely the meaning of Facebook.
Way back in the early 50s, you predicted that the world was becoming a global village. We'd have global consciousness, and I'm wondering, now, do you think it's happening?
I don't choose just to sit and let the juggernaut roll over me.
For him, the global theater, but the global village, is not a peaceful place. The global village is filled with conflict. It's filled with the articulation of differences, right? He talked about the decline of nations and the rise of tribes. So whatever you want, social groups You can see that.
What has happened to us today? Well, we've been re-tribalized by electronic media, okay? Facebook is the example I always give. Billions of people. But Facebook's a single body. It's not 3 billion individuals. It's a single corporate body, Facebook. It exists as a corporate entity without any individuals in them. The only way you can actually have a self on Facebook is through your 700 friends. You're not there as an individual. Okay? That's the huge difference. That's why we're both alone and together. We're together as a corporate body, but we're alone because we have no selves any longer. We simply are no longer part of this new tribal community.
We're going back into the bicameral mind, which is tribal, collective, without any individual consciousness.
The individual is over. And McLuhan said one very haunting thing. He said that he was asked at the very end of his life, Professor McLuhan, can you speak to us, this is about 1978, can you speak to us about all the violence on television? He said, no, it's the wrong question. The question you should be asking is, can you speak to me about the violence of television? And he said, I'll tell you about the violence of television. Television is a corporate medium that robs us of individual identity, and the only way you can get individual identity back is through violence.
He also talks about addiction, and that is something. People are addicted to their media, and people's need to be in touch. Did I get a message? Did I, what's on Facebook? Who's doing this? And it is that interconnectivity, which someone like McLuhan helps us to actually understand it. And he framed it in terms of addiction.
He had that profound insight of a media world which was invisible to many of his peers, which has now become visible to us. But of course it become visible to us because we're already in the next one. And Gordon, I can't tell you anything about that one because I'm not McLuhan. Were he only alive!
It's impossible to have a point of view in the electric age and have any meaning at all. You've got to be everywhere at once, whether you like it or not. You have to be participating in everything going on at the same time, and that is not a point of view.
I don't think our institutions have any way of coping with this new dimension of man, the angelic, discarnate man of the electric age, who is always in the presence of all the other men in the world.
Rapidly, we approach the final phase of the extensions of man, the technological simulation of consciousness.
We actually extended our bodies, our brains, to produce our media. And in return, they produce us.